Out of 2 presidential polls taken, Warren G. Harding ranks at the very bottom of the barrel for memorable presidents. Most people don't even know he was president. And when you study history, most historians and political scientists think he was probably our worst president. He had no vision. He had a ton of corruption. He hired cronies, and he had an affair. And we know about that affair because he wrote this woman many passionate, steamy love letters. Well, even though the affair was known about, those letters were kept secret by the family for a very long time. When a reporter finally was able to somehow get a hold of these letters, they threatened to publish them, and the family sued the reporter. And the settlement that came down was that the letters would be given to the Library of Congress, and they were sealed for 50 years. Well, in 2018, those 50 years were up, and the letters were made public. And people finally got to see the real Warren G. Harding. You see, Warren G. Harding was a good-looking man. He was a great politician who just knew how to kind of make everyone happy. And when he was president, he was one of our most popular presidents ever. But he died of a heart attack just 23 months into his presidency. And he didn't really accomplish much of anything. And so he was quickly forgotten. Well, recently he's been in the news again with these steamy affair letters that he wrote. And if you ever read any of them, you can understand pretty quickly why his family wanted to keep those letters a secret. You see, they wanted to protect Warren G. Harding's reputation. They didn't want people to know who he really was. And if you study history, you find that this is a repeating pattern. I just finished a biography on Queen Victoria, and her youngest daughter, Beatrice, spent her life editing Queen Victoria's diary, destroying letters, trying to maintain the public image that Queen Victoria wanted. Now, Queen Victoria was a good woman, but she had some deep flaws, and she made some pretty big mistakes. And the royal family has done everything possible to keep some of Queen Victoria's flaws from coming out into the public. In fact, there's many letters that have just been completely destroyed, and we only know of their existence through mention of the family doctor's diary. We have no idea what those letters said. George Washington did the same thing. He had many of his private papers burned. If you study history, you see that there is this preoccupation with big historical figures who know they're going to have a legacy, who know that everything they've said and written is going to be pored over by historians, and they want to preserve their image. It's interesting. The Bible talks about books in heaven, and many people believe that those books in heaven are records of our lives. It's like our character that is preserved in heaven. And when those books are opened, it's like the characters of people are opened. And we're not talking about what you show on social media or the person that you show up at church as, but we're talking about the real you, the best of you and the worst of you. And the amazing thing about these books is that Jesus already has read them all, and he loves you. He accepts you. But the crazy thing is that we are writing our books today. You see, everyone who's passed away, their books are done and sealed. But you and I get to write those books today. We get to write into our characters. Do we want to be kind and cheerful and compassionate? Or do we want to be proud and critical and harsh? We get to decide. Just like Warren G. Harding sat down at a desk, took out a pen, and wrote a love letter to his mistress, we get to write the letters of our lives today. And the amazing thing is that God says he will give us the power to be holy. Paul says, in my weakness, I am strong. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And the amazing thing about being able to write our legacy, to write our letters, is that God doesn't expect us to be perfect. He just wants us to focus on him and to live for his glory. You see, Jesus is coming back very, very soon. And in John 3, it talks about when the light comes into the darkness, some people hate the light because it reveals the darkness inside of them. That's why a big part of being a Christian is confessing our sins. It's saying, whoa, I've got some darkness in me. Lord, please take this darkness away and fill me with your light. You see, God doesn't condemn us for having darkness inside of us. He wants to free us from that. But some people choose the darkness. They love the darkness. They want that. And then when the light comes, they reject it and they hate it. You see, our hearts, our choices, our actions, our words affect the book in heaven. They affect our character, which is the only thing that we're going to take into eternity. And so, instead of being like Queen Victoria and hoping that your children clean up your letters, or instead of being like Warren Harding and hoping that no one ever finds the letters you're writing to your mistress, write a letter today that brings God glory. Not a letter that you want to be good for the fanfare and the applause, but write a letter that when Jesus reads it, he says, good job, where he's proud of you. Write a letter today that if your kids read it or your grandkids read it, that they'll realize that their ancestor, that their grandpa or grandma or mom or dad, they were a good person. You can choose to be inspiring today or to be negative. You can choose to be a blessing or a curse. Deuteronomy chapter 30 says, today I set before you a life of blessing and a life of curses. And it is not too hard. God says, I'm not making you go to the tallest mountain or swim to the bottom of the ocean. What I'm putting before you is easy to do. Choose me. And if we make that choice, we can make a difference. We can make an impact. Now, don't give in to the doubt and the despair and the discouragement. Don't give in to perfectionism or anger or negativity, but look up and say, no matter what you're facing, God's got this. I'm going to trust in him. Jesus, I want you to write my letter for today. I want you to write my character. When that happens, 50 years from now, if someone reads what you wrote, it'll inspire them. You have that opportunity today. Write something worth reading. Live a life worth living. God bless.